Well, of course, they say money can't buy you love, but if you want to get into politics, you will need oceans of cash.
The 2012 presidential election was the first $10 billion election campaign in our history. Author John Nichols says it's threatening to turn our democracy into a dollarocracy. Dollarocracy, how the money and media election complex is destroying America, is John's new book that he co-authored with Bob McChesney. And John is back with us today on Live at 5. Good to see you,
John.
It's an honor to be with both of you.
Congratulations on the
Absolutely.
book. Now, how do you define a dollarocracy?
Sure. In democracy, the vote matters. That's what you go on election night and you count all the votes. Unfortunately, if you look at the last maybe 20 years, it's really we count the dollars as much as we do the votes. We talk about whether you're a legitimate candidate based on how much money you've raised and how much you are raising. We actually, and you do it, we do it in other media, we report on the money figure. Well, there's a reason we do that. It's because the money defines the discourse. And this isn't Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative. This is a money power, the same money power that Bob LaFollette 100 years ago decried, which essentially says, here's the range of debate. And I think one of the reasons Americans are so deeply frustrated with Congress, why you get such low ratings for Congress, is because the money power has narrowed the debate to a place that's very, very good for money, but not very good for democracy.
Well, where did it all start? How did these numbers get so high? Was it Citizens United? But it started before that, right?
Way before. And we talk about that a lot in the book. One of the big mistakes people make is to think Citizens United, the ruling in 2010 that allowed corporations to put a lot of money into politics, was some sort of big turning point. The reality is the turning point probably came in the 1970s when you had a ruling called Buckley v. Vallejo, which basically said, among other things, rich people could spend as much as they wanted on their own campaigns. That's how we ended up with a lot of billionaire and millionaire politicians. And so the end result is that we've had a long decay, but now is the time for us to pull whatever switch we pull, draw a line in the sand and say, is this what we want? Do we want the money to shout louder than the vote?
How do you do that? How do you save the political system from this?
Well, we do a lot of things. We talk about it, just what we're doing right now, and thank you. But we also become what this country has always been, which is willing to take bold steps to make sure that democracy works. This is a country that looked at a civil rights crisis, that looked at many other challenges throughout our history, and did big, bold things. And we have to do big, bold things now. The thing that we need to do is to seriously look at ways to control money in politics and to bring back the ability of citizens to regulate how much money is spent on campaigns. That might take a constitutional amendment, but remember, with the civil rights fight, we had a constitutional amendment to get rid of the poll tax. So we've talked about money in politics before, and we've gone to the constitutional level. We shouldn't be afraid to do it again.
Sometimes on election night, or as you watch these commercials and all the money spent, you wonder if there's ever going to be a Russ Feingold starting from his front porch, or some of the stuff we've had in our history, great history in Wisconsin. Is that ever going to happen again?
We do worry about that. And the fact of the matter is that if you start on your front porch today, what you have to do is go back in the house and spend 7 or 8 hours making phone calls to rich people to give you money. Or you could just start as a rich guy. But the problem is that the money becomes so dominant. And we write a lot in the book, or at least a little, about Bill Proxmire, who used to run his campaigns for a few $100.
Right.
Today, Bill Proxmire could be beaten not because the few hundred is the problem, but because an opponent now could marshal such a huge amount of last-minute money that you might actually be able to shift a campaign even against a Bill Proxmire.
What about this media election complex that you talk about? What is that, and how do we contribute to
I hate to tell you.
We're partly to blame.
Actually, to be honest, you're not to blame right now because you're talking about this stuff. But the challenge is this, and it's especially in the field where I come from, newspapers. Daily newspapers, which used to have huge staffs and really cover everything that went on, they're declining. They are cutting staff. They have fewer and fewer reporters. Radio stations have a lot fewer people on air, a lot more syndicated programming. And so we have less and less local coverage. And as the local coverage goes down and the money flows in, people start to get their information more from the ads than they do from the journalists. That's something we should all be worried about.
John Nichols, always good to have you. Best of luck with the book.
Congratulations on the book, John. Great to
you.
see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.